What's going on, y'all? My name is Joltage, and today, bring you the Week 3 LPL LCUU recap. We're just going to kind of hop right into it. As usual, we're going to go in order of when the games were played. And first up, we had Baby Boy Blues versus JuanSG. As a note, this was our first week post our second quarter shift of the year, where we lost Magby, Fly High King, RIP, but we gained back Krogunk, finally. I don't know why he moved up in the first place. But somewhat more excitingly, we also gained back Vulpix, who we have not done anything with yet, and may not do anything with at all. We're gonna see how she works in the tier, but we do now have Vulpix, and now LCU is truly the weather tier, as we have all four weathers viable, which is pretty exciting. But our first game of the week, first time seeing Vulpix in some competitive action. We got BBB's team here. Vulpix, double grass, double fire. Definitely really leaning in on the sun here. Why not? Who you also don't see very often. Very interesting team out of Baby Boy Blues. Over on Juan's side, we've got honestly about a standard team. Salandit, I'm a big fan of that mon in particular, but the rest of me, Archin, Sandtru, these are your usual suspects of LCUU, and yeah, we'll just kind of hop right into game here. So get a why not lead versus the Salandit. That's a little bit different. BBB decides, let me not deal with that. Goes hard Diglett there, which is kind of wild. Goes hard Diglett there on the Thief, which Juan went for because he wanted to not get mirror coated. Ends up popping his eject pack on accident because tangling hair, and so we get a free switch. So he gets a free switch out to Sandtru, who's actually quite scary for BBB's team if you look at it. But that was a weird situation. I'm not the biggest fan of eject pack Salandit in LCUU. I much prefer that when you can actually trap some shit. But it kind of worked out there. I think the switch to Diglett in general was a wild play. Just first of all, you could have easily been, fire move there and just go down. But yeah. Anyway, it did get its EV-Light stolen, by the way. Kind of wild. Anyway, and so it stole its EV-Light and bounced. Sandtru comes in. Very weird first turn. BBB, they're also going to trade rocks here. BBB making an aggressive stay in there. Now goes to his Pumpkaboo on the knockoff. Is going to be able to eat that as it is EV-Light. And is going to be able to synthesize right back up as Juan went to his Oddish, who dodges a Fire Blast and does a ton of damage and gets a poison with that Sludge Bomb. So not the greatest turn for BBB, as he's just has to go for the Psychic this time, in case of a Salandit switch or whatever, and sacks his Pumpkaboo. Vulpix comes out to revenge the pump with the Fire Blast. Salandit comes in. Flamethrower is the Vulpix, who misses an overheat very unfortunately. I think that probably kills, to be honest. Actually, it is EVO, so maybe not. But Dig A is going to come in, doubles out into the Charmander on a Flamethrower. Didn't quite work out for BBB, who was not expecting the sack. Maybe expected some sort of switching around, but really Juan doesn't have switch-ins to Sandtru, though he could have done like some sort of I didn't have to switch into an Earthquake. They could have done some like, I'm switching into Arch in this turn, then I'm going to switch into Goldeen on the Iron Head, and then Sun's going to be down, so I'm going to flip turn out, and it's going to be good. But he just kind of opted to say, alright, Salandit, you've done your job. And to be fair, Salandit doesn't necessarily beat the rest of the team either. It lives the Fire Blast, so I guess the Overheat miss didn't matter that much because it would have lived. But this time he does preserve the Salandit as he goes Sandshrew on the Earthquake, and that actually does no damage, so it really didn't make sense. That's a bulky Shrew. That's crazy. He's going to get off a Rapid Spin on the Why Not. Why Not? Knocked off right for the counter. There's always a mind game on whether you're going to go for Encore counter there, but Salandit is going to come back in, get another kill with the Flamethrower. Diglett's going to come back out, get the Iron Head kill this time, in case you wanted to go Archon. Pancham's going to come out, and I mean, it appears to be all over but the shouting for Juan, as it's Pancham versus a last mon, the Leap, though Pancham's tangling hair, though Diglett's tangling hair allows this Leap to set up an initial curse, and Panda's Drain Punch isn't doing too much. Parting Shot's out. I would have knocked off immediately, as BBB recovers up with the Panda. I would have knocked off immediately with the Panda, but the Leap is setting up, and this Panda's the only hope, really. Drain Punch not doing enough, so we need a crit from Juan. Now needs a crit, or this Leap is going to be able to outlast. And I'll just skip forward because this Leap does indeed outlast, and pulls off a wild reverse sweep against Juan, pulling out victory from the jaws of defeat. BBB picks up the victory with a rather unorthodox set. I can't say we see Curse Leap too often. This was also Amnesia as the last move, but not really necessary at the end there. But yeah, crazy game, and crazy way to start off the week. I will see you in game number 2. Alright, for game 2, we've got Camden versus risi. Both players opt to bring the other new toy we got back in Krogunk here, but no Vulpix to be seen this time. I think that makes sense. Vulpix is obviously the major attraction of the shift. A lot of people can be very focused on how to deal with that, so a lot of these teams are probably have multiple ways to deal with the picks, though I'm not super into Cam's matchup against it myself, but it doesn't end up mattering. Risi with a nice Dupiter Sand team, really trying to take advantage of picks, I think. Drillbur, definitely an interesting one. You don't see that very often, even on Sand, just because Shrew kind of just does the job better. Knockoff is really good. But very interesting team for sure. Camden's brought a Bunnelby squad and Bunnelby fight spam, which is a little interesting in its own right. So yeah, we're just gonna kind of again hop right into it. I haven't actually watched this full game yet. I've only caught like the last 5 turns of it, so I know how it ends, but we'll see how we get there. Archon lead against the Leap. Hard Bunnelby, Berry Juice Bunnelby as well. This is the second Bunnelby that's not been Scarfed, and I generally feel like Scarf is the way to go in LCUU in particular. LCRU a little bit different, but harding Bunnelby into anything is a wild play. I assume assume Cam was expecting the rocks to go up, and then we threaten Archon with the insinuation that we're Scarf. Now we can't do that, and Bunnelby is pretty useless. We're just gonna fire off a quick attack as we sack it to the U-turn. Unfortunate start for Cam for sure, as Hippo's gonna come out, set up that Sand, invite Leap in for free. as the leap goes, as risi goes to Archon on the rocks, is just going to U-turn out into Gunker. Gunker eats a crit, Giga Drain, and also the Sandspit Def. It's absolutely not going to be able to kill this leap, so I would have felt very comfortable staying in if I was Cam, but they go to the Salandit, rather. On the Archon switch, Berry Juice pops on the Eject Pack Overheat. Again, an Eject Pack Overheat. Again, I'm not the biggest fan of that. I much prefer Berry Juice on my Salandit. But the Archon would have died without the Sand Spadef boost, and is able takes heart. I think it would have died. It would have died or gotten very, very low without the Sand Spadef. So Sand Spadef definitely helped it out there. As the Salandit jetpacks out into the Pancham. Archon's Berry Juice has popped, so like this should be a very free acro if you've got it, but Cam says, I'm not risking my Diglett, which is the only thing that can come into a flying move. I'm not risking my Diglett on an acro. Or dual wing beat, I guess, and just stays in as risi gets punished for the U-turn, has to go out to her Gunk, who takes the Drain Punch relatively well, but I believe it's going to be actually no, Salandit comes in on the knock, already used its item, so that's not really doing much damage at all, and Vacuum Wave for a little bit of final chip. Salandit is in. Risi goes Archon. Dodges the overheat. Really works out for risi because the Archon would have been in defeatist at the very least, as Diglett is able to force out the Archon into Dupe Hider, not Rotting Rock move on Diglett, which I also like to not run a rock move, as it goes for the Iron Head Flinch for unknown reasons. I don't know why you would have Iron Head Flint and tried the Iron Head Flinch when you've got a perfectly good Krogunk to come in on the dupe, who doesn't get OHKO'd by the Surf. Also, you've got Lily, who can handle it. You're pretty good against Dupe Hider in general, but you see a Focus Blast. That's not really doing a ton of damage. Focus Blast, obviously, to try to catch the potential ground switch in. Nasty Plots up, and then goes for a Sludge Bomb to take out the dupe. In comes Hippo. I would have gone Hippo a couple turns earlier if I was risi. Set up that Sand. Is OHKO'd by the Focus Blast as it is a Smooth Rock Hippo. Vacuum was going to do quite a bit to Sandshrew. I think we could have avoided this situation if we go to Hippo on the death of we go to Hippo on the death of the Gunker. But anyway, Sandshrew at half is able to take out the Gunk. The Leap's going to be able to come in. Sandshrew can't kill that itself, but it can get off a knock, which is potentially very useful. Leap's going to get right back to where it was before, but here we see why dual wing beat sucks on Archon, as not able to kill, does really pitiful damage in general, and Archon is now in defeatist range, which it really should have been in earlier because of the dodged overheat. But if we were acro, we still don't kill the Leap there, but the acro definitely kills in this turn. But it doesn't really end up mattering either, as risi tries to make a prediction play, go for the U-turn in case of a Diglett switch in. Goes for the U-turn and is going to lose the drill before that and lose the game as a result. Really, the acro doesn't matter. The acro over dual wing beat doesn't matter. I'm just pushing an anti-dual wing beat agenda, unless you're running Scarfed Archon, which I also don't even consider to be like a real set, despite running it last week. So I'm just being weird. But I do think Acro is just way better in general than dual wing beat on Archon and on pretty much everything. If you're running dual wing beating on Archon, at least be adamant nature, because that does actual damage, particularly to Panchams, who can live a dual wing beat if you're Jolly, and they're bulkier, and they're bulky enough, which doesn't take much, it just takes 14 defense. So, just a tip for those of you out there. Acro Archon is the move, especially if you're Berry Juice. If you want to be Eviolite for whatever reason, or Scarfed or something, like, then you can maybe justify dual wing beat a bit more. But if you're Berry Juice or itemless or whatever, like Acro every time, okay? Anyway, that's that game, and I will see you in the next one. Alright, our third game of the week was between Albi and tzon of the Scrubs team. Both players bringing weather. Again, we see a Dupiter Sand team, this time from Albi, and we see some Vulpix Sun out of tzon. So definitely we got a real weather war on our hands at this point. I think the sand definitely matches up better into the sun than vice versa. Particularly this sun. The Pumpkaboo has a hard time dealing, particularly this sand in this sun. Pumpkaboo has a hard time dealing with the Growlithe. In particular, though it's pretty decent otherwise, also has a hard time breaking through the leap. Minchino's mildly okay in this matchup. It does outspeed everything, barring Scarfs, which you assume the Charmander is at the very least. The Sandshrew on the Sun team can take advantage of that sand as well, but between Laleep and Dupiter, you should be fairly good against that. But we'll just kind of hop into the game. So we've got Pump, super lead versus Hippo. Obviously positive lead for tzon. Albi's going to go out to his Laleep, who's going to take no damage at all from that Shadow Ball. Laleep's already super bulky, and that Sandspit F boost is just absurd. Rather than set rocks, which honestly Albi might not even have, he goes out to his Dupiter on the incoming Pancham, who's going to eat the knockoff and fire off a very powerful Surf. Unfortunately, their knockoff crit, but either way, Pancham's going to parting shot out into Pumpkaboo on the Icy Wind. Very cool prediction play on Albi's part, though not really that consequential, as Pumpkaboo really doesn't take much damage at all. tzon making an aggressive double out, trying to catch the Laleep that Albi went to last time. Goes back out to Pancham, but Albi decides to stay in instead and fire off a Bug Buzz. And Panda's very, very low at this point. But Zen is going to be able to take out the Dupiter, and Albi's going to be able to go up to Minchino, who basically picks up a kill at this point, fires off the knockoff, where Trubbish's sticky hold means that its item can't be removed, and it also doesn't tell you the item. I thought it did tell you the item, but it doesn't tell you the item apparently, though it's clearly Berry Juice. As this Tail Slap is gonna do enough, almost gonna do enough, even so, to take out the Trubbish, but not quite, as Trubbish is gonna be able to fire back a Drain Punch and take out the Minchino. Exchange of hazards here as Trubbish decides to get up Spike on the Hippo, who is just gonna Earthquake it the next turn after setting rocks. I would have gone Sandshrew 100% of the time there. If I was tzon, to honestly just like knock off, spin, like use that sand to your advantage. You outspeed everything on his team, or at least at the very least tie with his own Sandshrew. There, you didn't really need to set up the Sun right now, especially because if this is an EVO Hippo, you cannot kill it with this Vulpix right now. But we go sack our Pancham instead, the Earthquake, and head out to Charmander. Now Charmander is a bit scary, but we do have a Flash Fire Growlithe on Albi's squad, who is not worried about that Charmander at all. And Flash Fire Growlithe is able to take out the Vulpix with the Flare Blitz and really turn the game around. Tzon did not see that coming at all. Now the Sun turns are very limited. You can even eliminate them whenever you want to. If as Albi here, he's going to fire off a Giga Drain into the incoming Charmander. He's going to try to make some use of the last remaining Sun turns. Albi's just going to get rid of that Sun once and for all. Eat a Toxic with his Hippo, but that's not really that big a deal. He can easily run out to... now he sets his rocks again to officially just kill the Charmander, I believe, at that turn. Yep. Unless Sandshrew can get off a spin, which it's going to try to do, but the leap is in. He's going to threaten the Shrew. Goes for the knockoff. It's not really going to do anything at this point. Rapid spin. Going to try to do something with the Charmander, but the Growlithe blanks that entirely. Pokeball Super not going to be able to handle the Growlithe either, and Albi's going to pick up the victory. I think this was possibly winnable for Tzon, but I think sending out the Vulpix rather than the Sandshrew when he did was a misplay that may have really sealed his fate here. We're just going to see a bit of the game's going to peter out from here, basically. Albi's really got no shot of losing here. The leap finally goes down. We're going to get a knockoff just to make sure make sure his Growlithe can deal with Pump, Flare Blitz. The Charmander's got nothing that can take out the Growlithe. Weather Ball does pitiful damage. It could have been like Ancient Power, I suppose, but he has to lock in no matter what, and there was still a fairly healthy Hippo who would be able to take nothing from Ancient Power, and Albi's going to pick up the victory. So Sand, still good in the new meta. Positive matchup into Vulpix, it seems, at the moment at least. And we're going to move on to the fourth and final game of the week. Alright, and in our final game of the week, he had KSG versus Jocks. KSG actually is the UU player for my team this week. Was the UU player for my team this week. Yours truly ended up playing RU against Imanol. I'm not going to cover the RU games. I won my game. I brought Trick Room. I dodged a Hydro Pump. It was whatever. But I did help KSG build this team. I actually built this team for him day of, as he was looking at some of the other squads I had mocked up, and he was like, oh, Zoro seems interesting, let's do like a Spikes plus Zoro squad. And I was like, yeah, sure, why not? And I threw this together really quickly. So we've got Spikes Oma, Rocks and Spikes actually, Rock Spikes, Hydro, last move Earth Power in case like a Gunk tries to get cheeky and like set up on you for whatever reason. Opted for it over Knock in this case. So the reasoning behind that, Life Orb, Zorua, Knock Sucker, Extra Sensory, and Sludge Bomb for Cottonese and Spritzies. Pancham, standard stuff. I believe this is a fast panda, at least 14, not sure, it might be 15. Got a speedy Baltoy in case of a Krogunk. We've got a, this is a 4 attacks Pumpkaboo Small with Flame Charge and Rock Slide. And then last but not least, a Scarf Chincho to round out the team. Over on Jocks' side, we see, again, fairly standard stuff. We've got a pink Shellos, shameful, but Shellos, a very demonic Pokemon. In certain games, we should be okay with it with our Grass and Electric type, but always got to be worried about his Shellos when you see one. Panda, Pumpkaboo of his own, Diglett, Archon, Joltik. Joltik probably is going to see a bit less usage in quarter 2 with the introduction of Vulpix, but only time will tell. But yeah, both teams pretty interesting. We're just gonna kind of hop into the game. KSG obviously gonna lead Oma. Hazard's lead against the Pancham. It's gonna get up Rock on the knock. And then this thing lead up some spikes the next turn as it's sacked to the Drain Punch. Out comes Baltoy. Gonna fire off a Psychic, does good damage to the Panda. Baltoy is also faster than even the fastest Panda on this squad, though. So while it does minimal damage, it does at least hurt it. Jox's team having no hazard removal outside of a potential defog Archon means that Rock and Spikes are going to be up for the rest of the game and put in a decent amount of work. Punkaboo comes out on the Psychic. Punkaboo small of Jox's own. As KSG heads out to his Panda, who's going to eat the Giga Drain. Actually, Panda, again, also going to eat the Psychic and fire off a knockoff that is strong enough to kill the Punkaboo. That was not a very bulky Punkaboo, small indeed. Chincho's going to come out on the Joltik, eat the Thunderbolt with that Volt Absorb. KSG is going to make a very... Joltik obviously is very tough to switch into, particularly on this team, as both of our electric immunities do not like the grass coverage that Joltik definitely has. As Jox is going to go for the Energy Ball rather than the Giga Drain. Not a big fan of that. Go for the Energy Ball. Pumpkaboo is still Eviolite. It's not the Life Orb Pumpkaboo that I would be using like a couple years ago now. Not the Life Orb Pumpkaboo that I might have used back then. It is an Eviolite Pumpkaboo, so it cannot die to a Bug Buzz. It is going to eat the Volt Switch fairly comfortably as well, and Flame Charge into an oncoming Archon. And now, technically, this Pumpkaboo can win the game. Panda is at like 43 or something, 42, and that's before it comes in on these rocks and Spike. Like this this Pumpkaboo could technically win the game right now. Rock Slide or Poltergeist will take out this Archon. Ditto for the Joltik. Diglett be handled by either as well. And obviously Shellos cannot deal with the Bullet Seed. But KSG is going to switch out on this turn in case there was a Scarfed Archon. He wanted to, protect the Pump, because Pump is pretty good in this game, particularly once it sets up and stuff like that. Jox also did have an out in Sucker Punch Diglett, but without that, the Pump was very much in a position to sweep at that point. Somehow, alright, so KSG, again, like I said, in case of Scarfed Archon, wanted to go out, preserve the Pump, sent out his Baltoy instead, and it works out for him because Jox actually goes to the Panda, who Baltoy is faster than, and Baltoy is going to be able to fire off a nice Psychic and take out the Panda, so that worked out quite nicely. Joltik is going to come back out, and it's 15 speed Joltik, and we're really not running Giga on that, but because it's 15 speed, our very speedy Baltoy is able to even get the last bit of chip off that it needs, and take that out. KSG goes for the Ice Beam, not wanting to lock into, not wanting to risk a Hydro Miss, and not wanting to get burned by a Diglett switch in on a Volt Switch. Just makes the safest mid-ground play that he can. This is going to invite in the Shellos. And actually it invites in the Diglett Alola, who can eat the Ice Beam, I assume. This KSG is going to go Pump small. You see that his Life Orb Dig takes the Earthquake very well, but the Iron Head will kill next turn. And this apparently ends up being a 50-50 as Jox predicts a switch into Chincho on the expected Iron Head, goes for the Earthquake and drops to the Pumpkaboo's Flame Charge. That was really the last thing preventing KSG from spamming an electric type move to win the game. It is revealed to not be Scarfed Archon, so Pumpkaboo gets sacked right there. Chincho's going to be able to come in and Thunderbolt to the victory. It's a very interesting game. I'm glad the team worked out for KSG. Full para at the death, just to confirm possibly a mirror coat. Shellos could have done some things, but wasn't to be. Very worst case, we can always get a mold breaker knockoff on it, and start hitting it with thunderbolts again at the end there. So yeah, we pick up the dub, improved to 3-0 in our UU slot. So we love to see that. I am back in UU this week, and I will be facing Kip. So stay tuned for next week's video. But if you enjoyed, please feel free to hit the like, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.